Dominic Cummings, who masterminded the successful Brexit campaign and then Boris Johnson's 2019 majority, is making noises about re-entering politics. The first signs came last weekend with a rare interview in the Sunday Times. The main revelation of the interview was that Cummings admitted to having orchestrated Boris Johnson's downfall, which he described as like clearing the sewers. But he also took the opportunity to heap praise on Donald Trump and Elon Musk, whose project to challenge the state bureaucracy, he said, was just like his in the UK. Asked whether it would work for Musk, this was his response. Can Elon go into an entity, fire more than half the workforce and radically change how it functions and switch it from not working to being extremely high performance? Of course he can, because he's done it repeatedly, at Tesla, for example. He's also done it at Twitter, and it didn't really work out very well. But the fundamental question is similar to the question of Boris in 2020. How much are Trump and his political team prepared to make an effort to change these things and therefore back Elon and all the other high-caliber people going in with him? You can tell there that Cummings is basically seeing him and Musk as having sort of had the same role, and both in his mind had the capacity, had what it takes to revolutionize government. But Dominic Cummings, in his mind, was thwarted by his elected boss, Boris Johnson, not being up to the job. And he says that's the risk facing Musk now. It is very interesting, I think, to say, of course, Elon can go in and fire half the people and the thing will work well. I mean, the revenue of Twitter has collapsed. Elon Musk might say, yes, but free speech is welcome there now. I mean, maybe he has sort of taken off some of the guardrails. Some people might argue that's made it more interesting. It is also now full of horseshit, right? And I think the one thing which has made the user experience sort of the worst is because he lost all that ad revenue, he ended up replacing the revenue by encouraging people to sort of post more videos that people watch. Users can now share the ad revenue, which just incentivizes people to publish nonsense because you now get paid for how many people look at your tweet, which I think has been a really bad incentive structure. Anyway, in a blog post released on Thursday, Dominic Cummings made clear he doesn't just see the comparison with Musk and himself as being something which is just relevant to his past, but also his and Britain's future. So this is from Dominic Cummings' blog, a new article, TSP number 5, that's the Startup Party. What comes in 2025 to 6 as both parties and Whitehall fail? What can be done? Now, in the piece, Cummings complains about how the courts are making it too hard to deport people. However, regulation is stopping Britain from getting ahead in the race towards advanced AI, and his sort of perennial beef, which is how the civil service is, in his mind, useless and wasteful. And he then lays out a plan for changing all this. So he says, summary, shove out Kemi, so Kemi Badenoch, ASAP, take over Tories, get Trump Elon to facilitate a merger with Reform, tip in a third force of elite talent and mass energy, so voters see an essentially new political force whose essence is a decisive break with 1992 to 2024. Remember, voters keep voting for change, but the old parties keep refusing. Break the coalition supporting Starmer, take over number 10, do regime change, immediate action, vote Reform in all local elections and help start the avalanche to remove Kemi Badenoch, push what's falling. So he wants people to support Reform to try and put pressure on the Conservatives. And then he goes on to say this, a significant fraction of talented people in Britain have to get involved in order to turn around our appalling politics. This will probably only happen by 2029 if those two parties, so that's Tories and Reform, combine and a significant third force from the country joins and improves them, then persuades people to defect from Labour. The public can only force the radical change of direction they want by a combination of A, a subset of SW1 elites defecting from the old system, B, a subset of non-SW1 elites deciding to get involved in politics, and C, the energy and legitimacy of a large fraction of the masses. The critical element here is B. Their actions can motivate and change A and C. So B there being non-Westminster sort of elites or talented people deciding to get involved in politics. And he says, this usually happens historically in times of crisis. See DOGE. So that's Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or that's what he suggests it will be creating any government efficiency. Many people are suggesting that it is creating government collapse in certain very important areas like education. Aaron, does Britain need a Muskian revolution, possibly masterminded by Dominic Cummings?
Talk about main character syndrome. There's that great line from the 1848 revolution about, I think, Louis Philippe, when they said, "There go my people, I must follow them." And I kind of feel like that with Cummings and Reform. Reform have finished first in 2 consecutive YouGov polls. Reform have more than 200,000 members. They will probably overtake Labour in terms of being the largest party by membership in this country this year. Labour are losing a member every 10 minutes, down to 309,000 members, Reform at 205,000. They will overtake them probably within 3 months at the present rate. That may not happen, but that seems likely at the moment. They have momentum. And then you've got, of course, these local elections. So I feel like Cummings talking about the startup party, the party has started. It has 5 MPs. It has more than 200,000 members. I do feel like it's a guy that just wants to be really relevant. That doesn't mean he is irrelevant. I mean, he clearly would be part of a broader coalition of influencers, individuals, politicians, interests that could replace the Tory party with Reform. But he is not in control of Reform. And I think it's kind of like, main character syndrome. He's not in charge of Reform. Nigel Farage is in charge of Reform. It is a business. This is why people like Ben Habib are leaving, because it's not a democratic organization. So the idea that it's somehow going to be...
Isn't that in part his point, though? Because, I mean, he's seeing... Well, I mean, he says he doesn't actually want to be directly involved in politics. He wants to facilitate other people. But this third force, which he's talking about, is, by his own sort of admission, not part of Reform. And he's sort of seeing this as what Elon Musk did, which obviously Elon Musk wasn't behind Donald Trump's success. Donald Trump got elected in 2016 without Elon Musk's support. But he's saying Elon Musk sort of saw this, in his mind, Elon Musk saw this opportunity to revolutionize the American government and sort of joined forces with a populist and provided the brains behind the sort of deep state part of the revolution to make it work. And Cummings sees himself playing a similar role. And I suppose, sort of to go further with the analogy, you could say that, Donald Trump in 2016 was the populist without the, high talent individuals that Dominic Cummings is talking about. And he's suggesting that, the reason why this Trump administration might be genuinely revolutionary is because it's got the populist leader who can speak to the masses, plus these high talent individuals that Cummings is keen on, which is Musk and his people. And so Cummings is looking at the UK and saying, okay, well, our Trump is clearly Farage, but what it is lacking, the Reform Party, the Reform movement, is the sort of technocratic, well, I suppose he doesn't like technocracy, but sort of high talent individuals to go in and make it work. So I'm not sure if sort of the fact that Reform got successful without Cummings is an argument against what he's putting forward.
That's a complete misreading of the United States as well. For instance, Trump's trade policy is based upon the thinking of a guy called Peter Novara, who's written a book, who's an academic about this stuff. He's been talking about tariffs for a really long time. This idea, the idea that, Musk is the reason why now that, Trump 2.0 has clearly a much more attuned, sophisticated understanding of state power, has a really coherent policy agenda. That is not because of Elon Musk. Elon Musk is very helpful in giving him what, $270 million US, keeping him high on the agenda. With DOGE, I'm sure he'll be quite effective. Yes, he's obviously very good at cutting costs. Look at X, right? I think it now breaks even. But the idea that, the difference between Trump in 2016 and 2024 is Elon Musk is just not accurate. And I personally think that Dominic Cummings is a very interesting man. I'd love to interview him. And I don't think he's stupid, right? I'm not one of these people on the left that thinks he's stupid. I think he's very smart. But I also think he's clearly a narcissist, clearly. I mean, I look, if I'd got somebody into number 10, I'd probably be a narcissist too. If I'd won Brexit, I'd probably be a narcissist too. But the point is, I don't buy the argument who's not interested in power. He clearly would love to be in government again. He clearly would like to put right what went wrong first time round. Reform and the people around it are not his people, Mike. You have to bear in mind, this is really important. In 2016, there were effectively 2 Leave campaigns. And Dominic Cummings said that people like Farage, Tice, Aaron Banks were kind of fuckwits. And they were a bit too common for him. And actually, there were literally 2 distinctive Leave campaigns because they disagreed on a ton of stuff. So this idea that, Dominic Cummings will come on the back of a white horse and he'll, help them, I don't think that's quite true. And also, my experience and what I've seen of people around Reform right now is that there are loads of talented people. I mean, this is really hard for the left to acknowledge and understand. There are loads of talented people in that world now. Loads. There's a reason why they're just getting 200.
People with policy chops. I mean, I saw on
Not policy,
sort of them
Not policy,
posting
no,
this
but I'm talking
week that the first sort of concrete policy I'd seen was to say that all electricity pylons are going to have to go underground. We're going to start taxing solar farms. Basically, every single point in their 4 bullet points was going to make electricity more expensive.
not
And it's
policy.
like, this doesn't actually sound like these are particularly, like, you know, they can, obviously Farage can speak to people, right? He's a very competent politician. But it seems to me that, you know, if they do have a genuine project for taking over the state, they are going to need some people with a bit more ideas about sort of what they actually want to change.
Yes. I mean, the election's 4 years away. They've got 5 MPs. For a party of 5 MPs, I think they've got a reasonably well-established infrastructure in terms of policy. You're right, they're going to create a lot more. Clearly, their big Achilles heel is they have, you know, the quality control in regards to candidates. If you want to get another 250 plus MPs elected, you need really good candidates. Do they have those right now? No. But I would say for an organisation which really has only been a serious political party for 18 months, if that, actually, they have a ton of really, really impressive people, Michael. They're media people. You know, the fact they can build an organization with 200,000 members, build that infrastructure, that's more in terms of members than Dominic Cummings ever achieved. So I do think there's a little bit of narcissism here. You look at Zia Yusuf, the chairman of Reform. He's made loads of money. He made more money than Dominic Cummings. So again, I think Dominic Cummings psychologically is used to being on the right. He's used to being with conservatives, fucking useless people. That's probably what he would think, right? People who can't do anything, morons, coasters, people in a legacy political organization. And I'm going to have to take the bull by the horns and sort this thing out. That isn't what Reform is. Reform has loads of people like that. High energy, I want to take this somewhere. Loads of people. I meet young people, 18, 19, I'm joining Reform. 20 years ago, they would have joined the Tory party because they're ambitious young people. They want to go somewhere. So I don't really read that. Yes, I think he could have significant impact in terms of the sort of policy agenda. Yes, there's a big vacuum there. And I think you're right. That's really where Reform are weak. But the idea that he will be like Elon Musk is just like, it's silly. Elon Musk brought the money. He brought specific knowledge in terms of cutting costs in a business. Dominic Cummings is a campaigner. He wins campaigns. The one time he didn't, do the thing which was about campaigning, which was administering the state with Boris Johnson, it was a complete catastrophe. So if you want to win a campaign, yeah, I think Dominic Cummings, clearly a very credible, smart guy. Go for it. Northern Assembly, stop that in the early 21st century. Brexit, wins with Boris Johnson, totally get it. But the idea that Dominic Cummings will be your guy in terms of overhauling the British state, I don't know, Michael. And again, I think Reform, think bigger here, right? They want to replace the Conservative Party. They're going to get some really serious, impressive people saying, I want to be a part of that. They're going to get and this is, again, it's quite, scary is not necessarily the right word. It could be scary, but it's going to be if it succeeds, and it's a long way away from succeeding. They've only got 5 MPs right now, but we're talking about them being first in the polls and whatnot. They will get ex-military people saying, I want to do this fundamental change to the military. I think we'll start hearing really massive policies. Like, I think they'll scrap, you heard it here first. I think they will literally scrap the idea of asylum. I think they will literally scrap the idea of asylum. Not asylum targets, zero asylum, zero. There will be no asylum. You can't come here and claim asylum. If you want, maybe it'll be at the behest of the Home Secretary. Maybe there would have to be some act of Parliament. Okay, we will allow 100,000 people from Ukraine or something. But the idea of standardized asylum laws, they will get rid of them. That's something I think they'll do. So if they were in government, which, like I say, is a long way away. So this, I think it's really wishful thinking on his part. I think he loves to be part of something. I feel that he's probably feeling a bit left out. And I'm sure he will have some role to play in Reform, because it's going to be this convergence of the right post-Tory party if it wins. But I don't think he's going to have the role that he seems to be giving himself right now. The startup party, like I say, it started. It's a bit Walter Mitty-esque for me, Michael. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how it seems.
I mean, obviously the big difference that you've highlighted there between Elon Musk and Dominic Cummings is Elon Musk, however idiotic he seems, when he speaks, however reckless his sort of actions as part of DOGE seem, however sort of crypto-fascist his politics seem, the man has credentials, right? He started some of the most successful and innovative companies in the world, and he is the world's richest man, right? That's Dominic Cummings ran 2 successful campaigns and has a blog. So I agree. He's an interesting guy, but he can't, obviously, if you are the world's richest man, you kind of have I don't want to say a right, because you don't have it's not a right in law, or it's not a moral right to say I should be involved, but it's quite easy to muscle your way into the top of any political project when you're the world's richest man, right? It's going to be easier for Nigel Farage to say fuck off to Dominic Cummings than it was for Trump to say fuck off to Elon Musk.
Yeah, I think, can I just say quickly, Michael, there's an element of cosplay going on, and I get it, right? It must be very alluring to want to pretend you're the richest dude in the world, playing at the highest level of politics. He's not doing that. Like I said, it's a guy with a blog. I'd also say it's not just Musk, right, Michael? It's a whole subset of Silicon Valley. Peter Thiel is another one. Loads of other people like that. Mark Andreessen are really involved in this project. So it's a cohort, it's a fragment of the capitalist class of the United States, which is going with Musk. It's not just Elon Musk as like some sui generis personality. And again, like, is Dominic Cummings part of a broader cohort of really powerful, influential people, loads of money, real track record of building stuff? No, he's just a dude, like you say, with a blog. Very different.
Well, a blog and who's had, 2 very successful campaigns. Let's wrap up there. Aaron, thank you so much for keeping me company on Valentine's night. You weren't there for my intro, but you're here for my outro at least.
Well, I still love you, Michael.
Oh, I needed to hear that. Love you too, buddy. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful evening, a wonderful weekend. Come back on Monday for another live show at 6 p.m. If you aren't already, please do go to novaramedia.com/support and consider becoming a monthly donor. Until next weekend, you've been watching. Until next week, not until next weekend. Until next week, you've been watching Novara Media. Good night.